That day was ordinary in the eyes of the world. No surprise announcement, no official word from Hybe, no scandal. But for some fans who were observant enough, something changed from the way Taehyung walked, from the look in his eyes, from the calm that seemed too calm to be called peaceful. It's like there's a small storm moving slowly behind the camera's beam of light, behind an Instagram post that looks relaxed but stores a lot of silent cues. Over time, fans of BTS, commonly called ARMY, have come to realize that the relationship between Taehyung and his agency, Hybe labels, no longer seems as harmonious as it used to be. No one talks about it explicitly, of course. No official statement, no clarification. But it is precisely in that silence that question after question arises and develops into speculation. Why is Taehyung seen more and more openly displaying his personal side, even when it doesn't seem to be integrated in BTS's promotional strategy? Why is it as if he is building a personal narrative separate from the group? Crossroads behind us to understand this tension. We have to go back to the beginning, the time when Taehyung first appeared as part of BTS, a figure who hid his real name for a long time until he was finally widely known as V. In the space of more than a decade, he has built a global career, performing on world stages, starring in luxury brand commercials, and becoming the public face of a global phenomenon called BTS. But along with that, his personal growth as a complex and unique individual also goes on Hybe, with its highly systematic organizational structure and strategic business approach, has played a huge role in shaping the image of BTS. But not a few are wondering how much space is actually given to each member to develop as an independent artist. Taehyung, with his love of art, fashion, photography, and experimental music, often shows that he has a world of his own that cannot always be included in the framework of a K-pop boy group. This is where things start to feel. When someone with artistic sensitivity like Taehyung begins to feel cramped in the rigid structure of the industry, friction inevitably ensues, not always in the form of open bickering, but in the form of stifling compromises, message-filled silence, and increasingly difficult distances to bridge private uploads. Unspoken incidents on aspect of ARMY's discussion was how Taehyung began using his social media as a personal channel, rather than an extension of the group's promotion. He posts melancholy photos of himself in empty cafes, unfinished pieces of lyrics, or abstract paintings that seem to represent his feelings. Many of the uploads seemed random to ordinary people, but to ARMY who knew the language, the uploads were stealthy conversations that on many occasions, he also expresses feelings about the pressure he feels. Not in a frontal way, but in a very Taehyung way, subtle, and full of symbols. He once mentioned how difficult it was to always appear happy, how much he wanted to live like a normal human being, even though he had become part of a very controlled system. IT is not surprising that some fans began to interpret this as a form of silent protest against his agency. Hybe, who has been known to take great care of BTS's image and branding, certainly doesn't want too much gray space in her artist narrative. They're used to controlling every aspect from the schedule to how a member behaves in public. So when Taehyung begins to take control of how he is perceived, it may be perceived as a disruption to the established order, growing ambitions. Questionable LMITS Taehyung's desire to grow as an individual is nothing new. For a long time, he has shown an interest in the arts beyond music. He is known for collecting paintings, visiting museums, studying analog photography, and even curating playlists that don't always match BTS's musical style. Some refer to this as a self-search phase, but many also believe that this is part of his ambition to become a full-fledged artist, not just an idol. The question is Hybe ready to face that ambition? Within the structure of the K-pop industry, agencies usually have tight control over the direction of an artist's career. But in Taehyung's case, that control seems to be waning. He showed more freedom in choosing projects, performed in a more personal style, even made songs that did not sound like BTS products. For fans, it's fun. They get to see the other side of Taehyung. But from the management side, this can be seen as a sign of narrative leakage. One of the sources from Hybe's close environment, who of course did not want to be named, mentioned that there was internal tension when Taehyung wanted to release his solo project with a more independent approach. Not all teams agree with the creative direction chosen by him. Some even felt that the project could disrupt BTS's momentum or create the perception that the group is not in one voice. But from Taehyung's side, maybe it's time to speak the truth. He never explicitly stated that he wanted to leave the group, but what he showed in gestures, artistic choices, to the way he spoke, led to someone who was looking for his own path. And the road, perhaps, did not quite fit into HYBE's plans, grasping freedom, challenging the issue. And we must remember, K-pop is not just a music industry. It is a highly organized cultural ecosystem with a clear hierarchical system. In that system, the agency is the center of power. But changing times demand something different. Fans now don't just watch, they observe, analyze, and support the artist not only as a product, but as a human being. And Taehyung, in many ways, became a symbol of this shift. She is one of the few idols who dares to showcase her complexity, even if it doesn't live up to industry expectations. It captures the anxieties of the times, about pressure, about boundaries, about the search for self. Herein lies the greatest tension between him and HYBE, not because the two hate each other, but because both have visions that are not always aligned. HYBE wants stability and continuity. Taehyung wants space and freedom. These two desires are not wrong, but if they are not addressed wisely, they can turn into conflicts. Looking for answers, and what we see today is the result of a long process. There's not one big incident that can be used as a reference, but a series of small ones that form a pattern. From how Taehyung responds to interviews, from how he chooses projects, from the breaks he takes from group activities, it all implies that he is creating a new map for himself. What is not yet clear is how HYBE will respond to that map. Will they support and pave the way, or keep the old scheme that has proven successful but increasingly obsolete in the face of new dynamics? One thing is for sure, the decision to be taken in the near future will be decisive not only for Taehyung's career, but also the direction of BTS as a group. Because if one member chooses a completely different path, then the long-established harmony will have to undergo adjustments. And the ARMY, with all its sincerity, will bear witness to that change. When idols become ordinary in the end, maybe this is the crux of it all. Taehyung's desire to be human. Not in the sense of giving up on dreams, but in the sense of having the right to self-determination, feeling life without a script, and living the days honestly towards yourself. It's not easy in a world like K-pop, but if anyone can do it, Taehyung is one of them. He has courage, he has influence, and most importantly, he has self-awareness. He knows who he is and where he wants to go. And perhaps, precisely from this tension, we can see the future of K-pop, a future that is more human, more open, and more courageous.